ADHD is not a superpower, but it doesn't have to stop you from writing your novel either. There's nothing in the ADHD diagnosis that specifically stops people from writing novels, but many aspects of this condition can make the whole thing a little difficult. Well, I'm about to make it easier for you. Not easy, because writing a novel doesn't have to be easy, but easier. You just need to find your personal points of friction and then making adjustments for them instead of just following some random generic ADHD writing tips and advice. But before we get more into it, hi, I'm Katri, I'm your new writing bestie, and this is Protagonist Crafts, the place for people who are kind of obsessed with that whole writing thing. So what are these points of friction that I mentioned earlier? Well, when it comes to writing a novel and ADHD, they are boredom, chaos, focus, and doing. Because the thing is that we people with ADHD in the brain, we experience it differently. So we all have different struggles. Like for me, writing is not one of the difficult things in life, but don't ask me how many unfinished crochet projects I have in my closet, and don't even get me started on going to a 9 to 5. But for you, it might be different. So instead of following that generic advice, I want you to find what it is that causes friction for you. There are also 3 variables that will make things a bit more difficult when it comes to finding those solutions, but we'll talk about those later. So let's start from boredom. And I personally have a fairly low tolerance for boredom. So things like long train rides and, say, editing my videos, they make me go, ooh. Being stuck doing something without the option of getting out is the actual worst. And also, I don't experience this with writing. You might. Writing a novel, an actually good novel, a great novel, it is a long project, and don't fool yourself into thinking that you could do it in under a year, bestie. So there are 2 separate reasons why you might find writing a novel boring. So the first reason is that it simply takes too long, but the other thing is that you might get bored in your specific story you want to write, but just not this one anymore. I want to write something else. So like I said, writing a great novel takes time, and you can't really, there's nothing you can do about that. You could be really, really locked in and focus on it for long stretches of time every single day, and you might risk burnout that way, but maybe that method actually works for you, without the burnout. But instead of doing that, you could also accept that it's going to take longer than you thought, and you work on your novel shorter periods of time with frequent breaks so that it always feels fresh when you sit down to write again. And what about routines? Should you have a solid daily, maybe, writing routine? Well, if that's going to work for you, then you should have that. But if it doesn't work for you, then don't. For me, having strict routines is the only way I can make myself work out regularly. But with writing, I just can't do that. I can't be like, I'm going to write an hour every day at 12. Just no. I write whenever I can, and that works for me. I can't make myself do it. It's not something that I procrastinate on. So have some awareness for yourself. Which way is going to work? Is it having a strict routine, or more like being a writing opportunist? And you don't need to have daily writing goals if it bores you. If you're like, oh, I have to write 1,000 words every day, horrible, then just don't do that. Nobody says that you have to do that. What if you had a weekly writing goal instead? What if you decided to write 5,000 words every week, and then you write like 100 words here, and then 100 words here, and then the rest on one day, because that's just how you felt. So don't set yourself up for failure with your goals and your routines. What's going to work with your brain? Hey, maybe working on this one big project is really boring. Well, maybe you could do some smaller projects, on the side. Maybe write these short drabbles, do writing exercises, or preferably something completely non-writing related. So maybe try crocheting something, unless you're like me and you just never finish these projects. Try drawing, maybe go bake a cake. You can start and finish it in a fairly short time. So although the problem with ADHD is that you don't get that good feeling once you finish something, but you can still tell yourself like, yes, I am able to start and finish things, and that helps with your confidence as well. You can do this. But maybe you could work on 2 different projects, and I don't recommend jumping between multiple novels, because that way you're just never going to finish anything. But maybe two different writing projects. Maybe that could work for you. Maybe you have one serious project where you're like, I want to get this published. I want the world to see what I am like as a writer. And then the other one is like a Frasier fan fiction or something. Or maybe you have two projects of equal importance, but while you're editing something, you're outlining something else. And just having them at different phases so that you can sort of escape one project into the other and then go back. But again, I would recommend only two. Don't keep escaping the boredom forever. Now, this is going to be a bit controversial, but I actually think that outlining a story is going to make writing less boring, not more boring. And I know what you're going to say. I was one of those people too, like, oh, I don't want to know what I'm writing. If I know what I'm writing, I'm not going to want to do it. That's so boring. But you know how many novels I finished that way? 0. I mean, great if that works for you, but in this video, I'm going to give you many, many reasons why actually having an outline is going to make your ADHD writing life easier. So how can having an outline actually make writing your novel more exciting? Well, instead of just getting a great idea and just jumping straight into it and then, writing yourself into a corner where you don't know how to get out of, or just finding yourself like, oh no, this is so boring after all, you could explore different options. Like, I've got this idea, let's explore this. How can I make this exciting? What kind of plot events are they going to be? Like, oh no, actually I don't want that. Maybe I can change this. Maybe I'll try something else. Maybe I'll try something in this genre. And you could do all that in just like one day. Just sit down and just drop some ideas. An outline doesn't have to be this bloated, convoluted thing with like all these folders and binders, and I don't know what I'm saying, but an outline is, anything could be an outline. And it's funny because I keep seeing these videos like, oh, write your novel without planning. Here, use these shapes, use these matchsticks and napkins. And it's like, that's still an outline. An outline doesn't have to be a timeline. An outline doesn't have to be a cohesive synopsis. It could be either of those things or both of those things together. But it doesn't have to be. You can outline in any way that you want. A bullet point list of plot events, that's still an outline. So explore some ideas and make your story the most exciting version of it that you can make it. And that way, you're more likely to actually finish writing it. And lastly, when you're feeling bored with writing, just remember the outcome. What is it going to be like when you've actually finished writing your novel? What are you doing? What are you trying to get from it? How is it going to feel? What kind of goals do you have for this novel? So just keep those in mind. You're doing this completely voluntarily. You don't have to do it. Nobody is forcing you, I hope. But hey, maybe you are super motivated, but your problem is chaos. How could you write a novel when you don't even know where your keys are? And how could you keep track of all of your plot events when you can't even keep track of where all your socks are? I mean, what's up with all this laundry? Let's talk about that. Not laundry, but the chaos. And can you guess what I'm going to suggest? Outline your story. And once again, just use a method that is actually going to work for your brain. There are many different ways to outline your story and actually offer multiple different kinds of like plot planners and stuff in my Etsy shop, but you could get the completely free plot planner instead. It's just 3 pages. It won't take you forever to fill it out. And I do hear people saying like, I don't want to outline my story. I don't want to have every single thing planned out before I write. Well, don't have every single thing planned out before you write. Have the important things planned out and you decide what the important things are. What do you think that you need to plan out first? I never create these like character profiles because characters, they're like people that live inside my head. But I do need to have my plot events, in order. And preferably, I would also outline my scenes because I need to know where I'm going, or otherwise I'm just going to sit there like. So an outline is a very good thing to have for me. And you don't need to know anything about how to outline a novel in order to do this. I mean, I could teach you, but also you could just think of what kind of systems do you already have in your life? How have you already reined in some of the chaos? What keeps your life in check so that you turn up at your appointments? And how do you remember to do your vacuuming and stuff like that? But what kind of systems do you use at work? So just think what already works for you. How could you apply that to planning your story? And an outline also helps you remember where you are in your story and where you're going. So, for example, if you can work on your novel only infrequently, then when you sit down to write, it can be very boring to be like, okay, I'm just going to read the 50 pages that I've already written. Like, no, that sounds terrible to me. Well, maybe you would like that. I don't know. But personally, I would prefer having this outline like, oh, yes, okay, I am here. And then this is going to happen next. Great. And it's also going to eliminate some of that time that you're going to sit there staring at the screen. Because let's be real, you're a person living in the modern world. You have other stuff to do as well. And when you have this overall idea of where your story is going, and there's going to be less of these weird tangents, and thus editing this story is going to be easier. If you have this massive sprawling thing like 200,000 words that aren't like really going anywhere, or they're going into multiple directions, and then when you sit down to edit it, you might be completely overwhelmed. And editing, it can already be, even with the best systems in place, kind of overwhelming, and it is a big project, and it is actually going to take longer than writing the first draft. I'm sorry if that was news for you. So you want to do a favor to future you. And when it is time to edit your story, you don't want to like sit there and be like, okay, I'm going to fix everything. I'm going to make this perfect. Okay, what do I do now? I have 500 pages. Don't do that. Start from big things first. The plot. Do you have to move things around? Do you have to add stuff? Do you need to remove something? And then just proceed to smaller, and always focus on one thing at a time. Editing your novel will turn into complete chaos if you're trying to fix everything in sight. And some people are going to recommend AI tools like, oh, this is going to help you keep track of your plot lines. It's going to remember things for you. But if you don't use it, you lose it. And you don't want to outsource your cognitive abilities to AI because, you will just become worse at those things. And somehow writers have been able to write for novels that, aren't complete chaos even without these tools. So you can do it too. And lastly, don't try to wait for a less chaotic time in your life because, first of all, that might never come. But also, when you get all this thing down, like you get yourself writing when your life is a bit like messy and chaotic. Imagine how easy it is to keep writing when things get easier. But if you wait until, it's all plain sailing and then you start writing, you create your routines and stuff, and then things get more difficult, then you're going to be in trouble. You don't know how to keep going. So just use what you already have, get started now, and get into the practice of doing things even when they feel difficult. Yes, there is a caveat, but we will talk about that after we've gone through the next points of friction. So you might now have a handle on your chaotic brain, but focusing on writing could still be a challenge. How could we make that easier? So yes, the traditional advice, put away the distractions, put away your phone, be in a quiet environment. Go inside a tomb to write. I'm not going to say that, although you should put away your phone. It's stealing your attention. Your attention is a commodity. Just put it away. But what if you didn't actually need complete silence? What if you needed an appropriate amount of distractions? I tried writing completely alone in a quiet hotel room that didn't even have windows and was horrible. I hated it. I barely got anything done. How I write best is sitting on the sofa, watching something, not really watching, but having something on TV, something that I have seen before that doesn't need to have me like, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Something comforting and familiar background noise. Because, it's easy for neurotypical people to be like, eliminate the distractions when the distraction is coming from inside the house. It's a lot easier to peel away my attention from the TV show than it is to get out of here. I can and I will daydream for hours. And it's no secret that writing in a place like coffee shop works for a lot of people, and that is definitely not a distraction-free environment, although you might be getting away from your pets and your children and your spouse. Maybe it's nice to have all these random people in the background and just have this like chatter white noise. But it could just be that you do require that silence and you need to write when you're completely alone, or maybe you go write in the library or go write in the nature. Some self-awareness is all that's needed here. That's why generic advice is not going to work. So what kind of a system or a method is going to help you stay focused? So maybe if you've never tried the Pomodoro method, maybe try that. Although personally, I don't like if I've been focusing on 25 minutes, then why would I want to break that? Just no, that's not going to work for me, but maybe it's going to work for you. Or maybe you write a page and then you reward yourself somehow in some way that makes sense. Maybe don't eat a full cake every time you write a page, but maybe you can watch a funny video after every page. And you guessed it, having an outline is going to help here too, because it's going to help you focus on what you were actually supposed to write. So you don't start writing these random scenes. But actually, yes, you could write out of order when you've got your plan. So you can be like, oh, I don't want to focus on this. Now I'm going to jump here. Not just randomly writing something or whatever. So just think, what are the things that actually distract you from your writing? And how could you eliminate those things? Don't eliminate yourself, but how can you make adjustments? What is going to make it easier for you? What kind of environment would help you to focus and do that, even if it goes against traditional wisdom? And you don't have to have the right answers here right now. Try different things, and hey, maybe trying different things will also help with boredom. If there are certain things that need to be in place for you to be able to focus, like your house needs to be completely tidy, then don't start tidying when it's writing time. Tidy beforehand if at all possible. And lastly, try different mediums for writing. So maybe you want to write by hand. I definitely do a lot of that. Try different software that could help you focus, but don't spend all your writing time on researching on how to use Scrivener, how to use Decal, how to use Microsoft Word. Don't use anything that has notifications though. I love my Kindle Scribe and would gladly use that to write a full novel if I needed to. So maybe you can get one too. Again, self-awareness, try different things out. So maybe now you've eliminated those 3 points of friction, or maybe they were never a problem for you to begin with, and all you need to do is just to sit down and write, except you can't. Sometimes the only problem is simply doing it. You just can't make yourself. You want to, but you don't. But you don't have to do it. Nobody says that you have to. Maybe it's better that you don't. Maybe you're not supposed to be a writer after all. Did you get a little mad? Good. Use that. Some rando on the internet told you not to write. You're going to write out of spite. You better show them. Okay, but really, just don't write. Just go to your computer and then open the thing that you're using to write. Just open it. Did you do that? Okay, that's enough. Just go do some other things and try again tomorrow. But the chances are that if you do that, then you might feel compelled to write after all. But you don't have to. Just open it. There are so many steps to writing a novel, and it's just doing all of those things, it can feel extremely discouraging and overwhelming. Don't do all of them. Nobody is doing all of them all at once. Or even just in one sitting, you can't do that. Go do the first thing. Open that thing. Open the notebook. Open Scrivener. Just whatever it is. Just open it. Maybe write, maybe don't. So when you think about not writing, what is the benefit of doing that? And is the benefit of not writing bigger and more important than actually writing? Thinking about that could help you get off the sofa, or it could lead into a shame spiral. What do I know? But really just try to remind yourself of why you're doing it. You're a creative person. Writing is important to you. You are meant to be a writer. You should be writing. So just, again, go to your computer, open the thing. And novels, like I said, they are not written all at once. Don't try to write a novel. Maybe you can jot down some ideas in a list. You can draft a loose outline. You can write a scene list. You can do character profiles. You can write one page. You can write one scene. Novels are made of scenes, and scenes are made of paragraphs that are made of sentences that are made of words. You can surely write a word. Go and do that. And don't work yourself up into overwhelm by trying to write well. Don't write well. Do your best to write as badly as you can, as long as you're writing. And you might not know this if you've never tried to write a novel before, but are your first drafts going to be like unwieldy and bloated, or are they going to be skinny? For me, I've had to accept that all my first drafts, they're very skinny. They're very like talking head. There's a lot of dialogue and just there's a lot of like atmosphere missing and just details and stuff. And if I sat there trying to like squeeze out a perfect page that has all these elements of a great story, I would never do it. I'm just going to write what I'm going to write. it's going to be a lot less than I will have in a full novel, when I finished my first draft. And I've accepted that. So don't try to write in a different way. Write like you write. There's no squeezing required there. And again, when you're editing, edit one thing at a time. So have a focus for each round of edits, each draft. So are you working on your plot now? Maybe on how the characters sound. Maybe you're doing dialogue. Maybe you're adding some, details about the settings of the characters or something like that. And when I'm doing this at the home stretches of editing and I'm doing this line editing stuff, I like to isolate a paragraph so that I only see that bit. I don't get as overwhelmed with that because it's like, how many sentences there are in this thing? It has to be at least 1,000,000, right? So when I just see the one thing, it becomes a lot less overwhelming. And planning your writing sessions can also help here. So just write down what you're going to do today when you're writing. And then when you've done it, just cross it off your list. There, you did it, you're capable. And maybe some kind of an accountability buddy is going to help you. Or you could email me and tell me what you're going to write, when you're going to finish it. And I'm going to cheer you on. I read every single email and I reply to everyone. So once you've told me, you've got to do it. So those were the 4 points of friction when it comes to writing your novel. And I would like to know in the comments, what is your biggest problem? And all of that might have sounded almost easy, but like I said, there are 3 variables that you also need to account for. And they are priorities, support, and consequences. The quencies. So let's say you work best in 2-hour chunks in complete silence. But unfortunately, you also have other priorities, so it can be very difficult to find the time and space to do that. And maybe you don't have the support that you'd be able to do that. Like maybe you have children and nobody's going to watch them for 2 hours. Or maybe it's completely feasible that you would do that, but then you're just completely wiped out after focusing for 2 hours and you're capable of nothing else for the rest of the day. So do consider these 3 variables before you announce yourself a complete failure. Give yourself some grace and do try to find some adjustments that also take these things into consideration. Maybe this isn't the right season of life for you to do this, and that's okay. Writing isn't going anywhere. It's hard to do all this stuff perfectly, and if you'd like to know how to restart a writing routine when you've fallen out of the wagon, this video will help you, and I will see you there, bestie.